My morning started in Paducah. My wife works at Baptist Health there, so we were here in 07 and that place. It's a little bit of a drive, but not as close as we might think about being in person, but a lot closer to Lexington. I had to go there every time the last 3 weeks. We were here in some Canada, but that's a long drive. Anyway, we want to talk about grain storage, and I've been working in this area for most of my career. Actually, I got my master's and got a PhD after working in the UK for a while. But a lot of things have kind of evolved since I've been working in grain storage and drying systems. I'm going to kind of cover waterfront of the topics today this morning. And hit on something that you have a question on, just pop up a question, and we'll go with that. If you'd like to talk about something else, dry or something, we can talk about that. It doesn't have to be just strictly on storage or handling any questions you have on that. If you require a system, some kind of forward with that as well. We have some access to some computer programs that basically the handling capacity of each component of the system. Combine, do the wet leg, the dryer, and the line, so we can easily and quickly identify any bottlenecks in the system and use that a lot of times to help folks design systems. There's a lot more than what I'm going to cover today. The storage, honestly, this is probably the last choice you want to see. Soybeans being stored outside. We have had some situations where cover crops, that's actually been done in Kentucky. I was surprised to see that, but it kind of gives you some of that picture. And I thought it was first taken out of the Midwest. We've seen a lot of, typically they'll use outside storage for the corn in Nebraska and Iowa, where they have a big bumper crop. But I like to see that these covered in areas and got those technologies done. And that's what two parts of Illinois ecosystems. We actually have one in Mayfield that does that pretty routinely. They have an outdoor storage pile that's covered and aerated, and sort of preferred, I think, maybe over a grain bag, unless you can hold it just for a very short period of time. But some of the options we'll talk about. Conventional storage you see in the background there is the preferred method of storage, obviously, weather tight, vertical proof, for the most part. We still have some problems. There's seen some problem activity around grain storage where they've actually, their activities collapsed aeration ducts because they weren't built strong enough. And they basically created a failure of the aeration system. And we get out of the airport, I've only seen that in a few cases. But conventional storage is primarily the first choice we want to talk about. It's most expensive, but in the long run, when we consider the life of the system, we've seen them out there for 30 years. So the last long time. We just really break that out. Per bushel per year, it's fairly affordable. Just the most affordable we can talk about, especially when you talk about spoilage. It'll effectively make the longest than any other system we have. So when we talk about storage, there's an acronym we use widely in the trade, post-harvest engineers. It's called SLAM. It stands for Sanitation, Aeration, Loading, and Monitoring Grain during storage. It's an IPM-based approach, so we're actually trying to minimize the amount of chemicals that we use by just good housekeeping and monitoring the grain to keep it ahead of any problems that we might have to avoid some fumigation. I think if time allows, we'll go through some decision tools that we have on the website. That was on this first page. That's been changed. We have a new website, but that's shown at the bottom of the screen. I have some of these resources posted there. So use your reference. We'll use that routinely when answer questions. And I'll share again some other websites I've used. What to make it useful to do the information on storage and other processes on the product. But starting with sanitation is the first thing we'll talk about, and that really needs to start at combine. If you go from crop to crop, we talked about GMOs a while ago. That was obviously a concern when you moved between crops, and you had to segregate those crops years ago. Crop. And then you take through that a little bit, you can handle it fairly easily, but it does require some extra management when you have separate crops. But probably what we're talking about here is if you're like moving after wheat harvest, you have imagine residual grain in the combine, you blow that out, clean that out through cross-contamination. But primarily in the grain bins, you want to clean out the dust and flies that accumulate around the crevices, cracks. So we're going to have a hard mistakes, especially if you've got some wheat stored in there, clean it out, go with the corn. Please, bottom line. And as you clean out the bins, you want to look for any holes in the structure. Getting inside the bin, an empty bin, you look through. So they don't like when you catch that hole, replace the holes in there. Problem is a little bit of rust around the roof vent. You can seal them. It's a good time, I think, in summertime to pay attention to those kinds of areas and trying to condition from getting any moisture in the bin during storage. And also, see this very frequently, we have a lot of weeds on storage bins. It needs to be mowed because we replace it with rooms, hide out, go home, and we close the bin. So, obviously, commercial areas don't have a lot of concrete or gravel, so that you can see and limit the activity. So, there's that part of sanitation and some of the aspects associated with it. Talk a little bit about loading. And obviously, you've got a big crop the last couple of years. If you have a bin that has been loaded to the gills, loaded to the max, you can get in there and inspect for it. All you can do is maybe underthrow them or try into the fork there, and it's not going to be able to do any inspection around the surface where it has a problem on the backside of the surface. So, if you have bins that are overfilled, you want to get those emptied out and core the bins as soon as you can after harvest, and core around the different bins. And I know we have one bin. I know we have several bins, so you can get a core. Instead of core, we'll talk more about that. The advantage to that. But if you, as you're loading, generally you have a tendency to have fines accumulate in the center of the bin, just because of the way the rain flows. The heavier, larger particles will settle in the middle, and the fines will definitely settle in the middle. And some of you know a lot of the weeds and the lab material will kind of float off to the side. But in terms of both of having fines, you want to actually start thinking about the combine. You want to minimize damage to the turns with the rest of the pressure. For example, on turn speed and clearance modifications, refreshing action, cleaning action. Why don't you stop at the combine as best you can, bring in as much as you can into the bin. You want to run augers as slow as possible. That's what ASAP stands for here, because I've seen some data that shows if you're running an auger at quarter full at high speed, you can get 7 times the damage than if it's running at slower speed at full. So you may need to retool some of the belts or rework some of the mechanisms in the handling system we have. I know they may be running not at full capacity. But it can generate a lot of fires. Go ahead and bring on brain action as opposed to bring on metal action. So that bring on metal creates damage. If you generate a lot of cracked kernels in there, you're going to have more exposure to insects, more exposure to molds, spores, and more damage.
These people that sell bins now are telling me that you're about to go up without a spreader.
Yes, I've heard that too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, and I've got some graphics to illustrate why it's so. A spreader can redistribute flies having a donut pattern, depending on the design of the spreader. We actually need more research done on the spreader, especially with big things. We used to have a lot of research done in the 70s when I was studying this, We haven't had much done since that time. One reason is because a lot of the scientists that worked in that area have retired. And a lot of the positions that were in the university around the one point, they didn't get filled because of budget restrictions. So we've got kind of a void in some of the research that needs to be done. I'm hoping that every survey we need some more work to address questions like that or the larger structures that we have. And that really opens up a whole new kind of area that I think needs to be looked at. But yeah, we can core them in, we can remove those lines out of the center and manage the lines that way. We'll talk more about that. There's an illustration to show where those lines accumulate. They do tend to be in the center because those lines accumulate. Think about what that does to aeration systems. It blocks airflow, it creates more resistance because you have those pores, and open pores of the grain are actually filled with fine material, so you have more resistant airflow when you find aerated grain. The arrows that I showed on the slide here depict the amount of air you can get through those areas. Obviously, on the outside, away from the center core, grain is loose and packed. You get airflow through there much more easily than you can in the center core when you have a lot of bubbles. So if we remove that center core as illustrated here, we like to have a level surface, ideally. I mean, Big Bend it's got a lot of hurt to get that done. So I think what we're showing here is kind of a compromise. You make kind of an M pattern or a W kind of pattern on the surface, and you're removing the lines that would be. Where's the glasses on? Where's the pointer? That thing. I was hoping that would be it. Yeah, here we go. We were showing the lines in this area before, and you're going to remove those in your core again. And that's going to do a couple things for you. It's going to create some space for the spectrum for one thing on the top surface where you might have a lot of problems. That's generally we have a problem at the top. It's going to reduce that center peak height, so you have less resistance to airflow in that regard, and also remove those spines. So all those two things together give you a good reason to do that. So the next thing we want to talk about is aeration. I'll spend quite a bit of time on this topic because I get a lot of questions on that. But if we have a bin that has not been aerated, generally it might be 65 degrees in the center of that bin. It comes out of the dryer, it comes out of the dryer. Where we threw that dry in September, it's about the average temperature in September, exactly 65 degrees. But a lot of is cool down in the fall, and outside, right around the walls, but cool off along here outside average air temperature. And then by November, late November, the average temperature is going to be about 45 degrees. So you don't want to have that kind of temperature difference across the day. 20 difference is going to create some convection curves. We have the same thing in this room, we seal it all. And cool will start cooling the walls. We get some convection. The heavier air is going to fall to the floor. It's going to displace the warmer air in the middle. It's lighter. The warmer is lighter. You can hold more moisture. When it comes back in contact, these areas, these convection currents kind of take us a while to generate, several weeks. But the long the upside of it is the movement of that air. It's just temperature driven. This is an unaerated situation where we've not turned fans, we've got to turn fans off, and in the worst case. But when that cold air comes in contact with that warm air comes in contact with the cold surface at the top, you get some condensation. This is the reason we need air to try to keep the temperatures across that band about within 10 degrees of the outside of the temperature. This slide shows a situation where it's not been aerated properly, we've got some condensation, and more built up in the center core. When we have big crops, last couple of years, and big crops, generally you'll have more problems with it because it's getting overfilled, and it's a difficult area because the center peak is quite it is happening in the core especially, it won't be aerated well. This problem is center that we're showing here. So we want to You should put the fans, run the fans to get a very uniform temperature across the set about 10 degrees instead of the outside edge. And that's how you're going to cool down the furnace. So, but if we might temperature or manage temperatures and maintain those, and we talk about here, we can make those force renovation and convection occur. So we kind of put this in perspective. This is a graph that shows the average monthly temperatures in Kentucky, 3-year average. Season to season is going to vary a little bit month to month, but usually no more than 3 degrees. So we're looking at September here. It's going to be about 60-degree average monthly temperature. That's the average from the high and the low, and the high and low, and then average over the month. Right? So what we want to try to do, I'm showing temperature bands here, not to maintain our current. So we want to keep within about 10 degrees of the average monthly temperature, so that's illustrated here on that plot. And then we want to cool it out as outside air cools in the fall, down to about 35 degrees in the winter time. And some folks, if you're going to hold it and sell the grain by March, you probably want to hold it in this condition, 35 degrees, going into March. If you're going to hold it in the summer months, you may want to hold it up. There's kind of two schools of thought on this. We don't have a lot of debate on it. But if you want to warm it, do the thing. You're going to hold it right through the summer. You wouldn't want to warm it more than 55 degrees. It's our illustrator. Right? Because, again, you're kind of in a compromise between being within 10 degrees of the average monthly temperature and keeping the grain cool enough to where you're going to control insect activity. Okay. There's not really a need. I know some people have questions on why about just taking on down into the 20s and into the teens because super cold weather. You can do that. It's not really necessary if you won't be any extra controlling insects. But they're going to be their activity is going to be shut down. 35 degrees. But if you cool it on down, you certainly want to warm it back up. You wouldn't want to have a 20-degree grain going into the summertime, for sure. But not in hot hazard, because those convection currents are dependent on the amount of temperature difference we're talking about. So if you have a 40-degree difference, you can have those convection currents coming through more air. So this is illustrating red box that are showing, kind of a 5-degree differential. You can really manage to take that height. And with some of the aeration controllers, you can actually do that. So we'll talk about that. But this illustrated slide shows kind of as the cooling front, as it moves, pushing air up to the drain. Takes a little bit of time to do that, and the amount of time depends on the side of the fan and the side of the bin. There's some tools that are available to talk about. You have to decide and determine how much air you can get for different bins, different size fans. Okay? Instead of start out with kind of the minimal amount of air flow we like to talk about for aeration is a 10th of a CFM, cubic feet per minute, for each bushel we have in storage. Okay? And if you have that level, it's going to take about 150 hours to cool it out in fall, or if you're going to warm it up in spring, about 120 hours. Okay? And you probably want to put that continuously, that's what that sees. Low airflow rates, that's going to take several days to get it cooled out, so there's kind of pick time when the weather's going to be in that window of temperature range that you need, and turn the fans on. So you have to be a little bit of a weather prognosticator and pay attention to those kind of things. Make those decisions. If you have a large fan, you might have as much as 1 CFM bushel. In a cool fan, it's probably about as much as you can get. Because of all the business not very required, but it will take proportionally less amount of time. Okay? So basically, the rule of thumb here is if you take 15 divided by your CFM per bushel, you'll determine how many hours of operation it takes to move that. Okay? Move that front. The grains we were talking about, we were showing in the previous slide. So if you have half of the CFM per bushel here, for example, it'll take about 30 hours to cool it out in the fall. And that's kind of on the bubble, you may want to run that thing continuously, where if you have a large fan, you can be more judicious with the amount of time and days that you ran those fans not going in. But through an example here, obviously weather data is widely available on the phone, TV stations and all that. I just take that illustration as an example. We have a typical January winter in Kentucky. Looking at the rain temperatures we have here, anywhere from 17, and I think we're going to see that next week actually. But we're seeing some daily highs in the 40s, and the lowest for that 5-day range is 17. The lowest predicted next Thursday around 19 or sometime in there. But then you have temperatures about the 50s. Well, you want to try to, you got all hours in here that you can run the fan, and you can survive other hours you don't. Right? So, if you look at averages here, the average highs for this 5-day period is 46, the average low is 33, the total average is 40, which is right where you want to be, but you don't really want to run the wave of temperature through the break. So, how do you manage that? Well, this is a look forward at 1 week in January. This is a look back. This is hourly weather data, and just to illustrate the actual weather we had for the same time period. You can see actually, they get pretty close. We get average highs in the 40s. We got down around quite 17. We got below 25. Anyway, the point is, if we want to try to keep our temperature, operate the fan with a temperature between 30 and 40 degrees, we can hit that 35 average. Is our goal here. So we're going to turn the fan on when it's above 30 and turn it off when it's above 40. Okay? So in doing that, we have to measure the temperature with it. Just to say we have a controller who can do this for us. So we have a period there, the first day or so, in that temperature range, it drops a little lower, and off, then it gets back up. But then it gets warmer than we want. Fan off, then it cools off, turn the fan back on. So the bottom line here on this week, we have about 70 hours of operation in that window of our target, 30 to 40 degrees. Okay? So if you have a large fan, it takes 15 hours, you got plenty of opportunity. If a small fan, you can 150 hours, you got half of it in that 1 week. So I'm just taking you through that to show how a lot of people work on a controller, work with an electrician, something together fairly cheaply. We can actually do that. We have a couple of thermostats in line. You program those or control those and adjust those in the fall about 10 degrees a month. We can cool it down. They want to have an hour meter on there to just to log the amount of hours the fan has been running. We know how far and where that aeration run is in the bin. So you can work with some fairly inexpensive tools that are off the shelf to make that work. You can firstly buy some off-the-shelf commercial systems that do that for you. And these are some of the ones that are out there. And go to the cheaper shows, the rule, and talk to them about that, what the cost might be for your farm and for your bins. And this is something I've been kind of pushing. Some people put those in their systems and others are not, but it's kind of done it the way that their dad, their granddad did, which is fine. But I think in this gives you this the reason I like these kind of gives you more control. But got a lot of action. Does it for you. He's running up. Other than the fact that we're on a previous slide, again, most of these folks are going to be in the show. So, one question that comes from that is, well, how much air do I have in the bin with my fan and the depths in the bin? How much air provider can I have? And there's a program, this is the web address up here, for accessing that program, but with very minimal inputs, you can get some of this information that's very useful. So what you need to put in would be the diameter of the bin, the depth of the grain, and the type of floor you have in the bin. Whether it's a full perforated floor, we have which is very simple. You can put in a design airflow and it'll size the fan, or you can put a fan on there on the library fans that's available, and they have 400 fans on there, which I'm on it myself because the program got a little outdated, and so we were trying to update it. We won't be able to update the data. So we have about 8 fans stay out there, actual flows of typical half horse, 50 horse, anything that's out there. And it's just taken off there that manufacturing rated batteries. Okay? So, but it's put it in, makes it a lot easier. So you put in the information, it generates a table that lets you know how much airflow you have. So this is just a screenshot of the website, and I know you probably can't see it very well, but if you were looking at the type of grain, obviously the type of grain impacts the amount of resistance to airflow. So beans, corn, wheat, we grow in Kentucky. You want to start with something exotic. I was going to tell you the other day. It was putting wanted to know about chia. But I can guess who that was. There's a fellow we're talking about. They're looking at some different crops. And we don't have a lot of good data for chia, but we have some data that for small seed that's close to chia. I mean, we use clover seed, which is about 5 business that we have on our Anyway, so you put any type of grain you want to put in your case, either it's a fully perforated floor or you have dust. And then over the line here, in diameter, 48 feet. Talking to manufacturers, maybe the manufacturers forget so many is the average size bin that's sold across the Corn Belt right now is about 2,000 foot. And I mean, you know, you've got to do the trends, you are going to use years ago. Good reason for that, but kind of been creates a challenge in managing that. Right? But, so I'm going to kind of look through these numbers to show you. At grain depth of 33 feet, we'll store about 50,000 bushels. That's 48 by 11 ring bins, kind of the average that's sold by GSI and Rock. So, you know, a large bin like that is going to be hard to get a full sea of bin. Okay, you're going to have to get a lot of power. But I kind of diagnosed this over half a sea. And how can I get that? We'll see. So what it says is we need it gives us then on the output side the amount of bushels. Got 47,000 here. The total ML needed and a half second per bushel. Obviously, you multiply bushel by half to that number. Gives you the static pressure at that depth of 33 feet, and then it gives you gasoline horsepower. But then you go take that number and you look through the library plans and plug that in. So what I did here is I chose 2 15-horse typical fans. This is very typical of what you see out there for the large fans. Sometimes you see it about 20 horse. But when I put those in parallel, otherwise, and then we're going to 2 of them side by side, I'll bin. And what it's showing here is one of the output tables is with a single fan, we're going to have total, see this is the output from the fan curve of the fan manufacturer's data, which is static pressure versus airflow. For a single fan, we're basically the same static pressure as the double airflow in this situation. Now, it's not to say that you double the airflow through the bin, because then you push more air, you get more resistance. Those two units rise together. But the output table here, I'm going to enlarge this with the series here. So when the bin is full, we got a half second per bushel and 5 inches of static pressure. But now when we were, it was only 18 feet of depth, we have 1 second. So as we're emptying that bin, it's going to take less time, obviously. Yeah. But then, the thing I like about the program is, you know, specifically, we're pretty close at what depth and how we get. So you can take that program and generate those tables in for any Then you have the page you have on the bottom. And there's an option to look at it in graphic form, but you can see how it falls off. This is what it's showing is on the left is depth and every shifting per bushel in those bars. It's the same thing as on the table, we just show it. So how much does this cost to carry it? Well, I took the same example and I put different pans on there to see how long it's going to take and how much what calculator cost me. And looking at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, which is, I think, very typical still for what we're paying across the state. But we can get, with a 3-horse fan on this large fan, we can get a 10 to 6 per bushel that's full. It doesn't take a lot of horsepower to move a little bit of air flow. But if you have 3 cycles, it's going to have to take 450 hours total. And you get 10 cents, we're looking at $100 or about a quarter of a cent per bushel to cool it out in the fall. That's what that far right column represents. This isn't cents at all. So it's just a fraction of a cent. At the 30 horsepower we're talking about, we get those 2 horsepower fans, 2 50 horsepower fans. Takes 90 hours. We're going to have 3 iteration cycles again. Total 90 hours. $270 total to run that fan. And then about that cent. So it's very inexpensive insect control. There's a take on that this year. And with this program, you can decide, or you can know how much air you have it projects when it's not been together. So from that, we want to talk about monitoring. I'll get a question how if you're looking for any monitoring those $4 even $370 or we quote the price we had this morning. 10,000 bushels a day. There's $37,000. So it's worth monitoring. One system we've had in place, we haven't had a lot of adoption. Some of the newer bands putting in temperature tables, but you can retrofit them on some temperature tables. If you're doing that, you want to be sure to talk to the manufacturer because that roof load can exceed the design on older bands. We have to reinforce the roof, the original roof, put it in cables because it does invoke a lot of downward pressure on those cables when they're moving, especially when they're loading. But a few cables in there, generally the thermocouples. Thermocouples will be located about 3 to 5 feet apart. Some of the newer systems can actually connect and take that information and calculate how much rain is going to be in. Use it as an input control in the software. But then you can have, once the cables are there, you can have a couple different ways to read that information. Single handheld readout. You have to, have a written log as you go around and take temperatures and different depths. The nice thing about these is you can make temperature where you can run a probe. It's very difficult you've got a probe where you have a dive assist to actually get sample down the heat from the end. That will actually be kind of interesting that it does that, but volume levels are not difficult. The other thing I want to talk about quickly is insect monitoring, and this is you can use some passive traps, you can use some active traps. This is an active trap, this is a pit trap. And it's basically a plastic tube. It's got some holes drilled around the perimeter of it, and the activity of insects. It's not a mating trap. It's just their movement. They'll find the trap, fall out in there, and get out. The bottom of the trap has a removable cup. Screws on the bottom, and I've used this before. I worked with them on there. Doug Johnson. Some great storage work we've done, just the loading traps, because we had some help, some monitor the we would have these traps in the top of it and then monitor those. Just look at those once a week, see what kind of insects we would capture. And this sophisticated model showing here is actually has electronic signal on the bottom here in this area. So it's actually counting insects as they fall into the trap. And it's recording that information. You can go around, just like a temperature, you can go around and download that information and see what kind of insects fell since the last population. So that information can be tied in with an aeration control circuit to run the fans depending on how much insect activity we have. So that information, that system was demonstrated at the workshop some years ago, but this illustrates the level of sophistication you can get to from what we learned years ago. Just collecting samples by hand, sifting out samples, and temperature, measuring moisture, that kind of thing. You go up and remote and down to this cell phone or computer in the office. And the information that's in those systems is basically contains standard information we know about equilibrium moisture content. For example, this is showing for corn. You know, for example, that the temperature is 40 degrees and the outside humidity is about 60% humidity. We're going to run the fan. The grain is closest to the air is coming in, is going to approach 14.5%. So that information is actually programmed into logic controllers that they have for these sophisticated systems. So what it does then is it picks it goes to the market moisture, say around 50.5. And we'll run the fan, when it's in this window. It's 40 degrees, it's between 60 and 70% humidity. What that does is it prevents you from over drying or under drying the grain. So in my mind, it helps you monitor moisture in the grain, that's what mine is. And I was talking to a fellow last year that he under-dried grain, so he was selling grain at 17%. He thought he dried it out, but it was about this time last year, he was selling it at 17. Well, if you remember what happened last year, we had a run-up in LP gas prices. Moisture discounts were extremely high, high as they've been that I can remember. And it cost him dearly, this discounts. Cost him dearly. So, I mean, again, just want to point to this information. This is widely available on most of the website. But, again, it can be used manually, or you can use an automatic controller that has this information on it. So if you're monitoring, if you're looking at some of the costs of these kinds of systems, if it's more of a manual system, we have to record these information as a start, and you can go all the way up to a system that's fully automated, has all the sensors and controls in there, and makes decisions for you. It's going to be more expensive on us. And then just kind of get some perspective here, because these systems do last a long time. It's just a very simple matter of electronic sensors and controls, but the cables themselves, we can have a manual monitoring system. Recording would be, 3/10% to a penny per bushel. If you want more sophistication and circuit control, and then we have those equipment cables built in to actually make decisions for you on when to run the fans. It can cost you $30 somewhere in there. And again, these folks are going to be into the machinery show in Louisville. Get a chance to go up there next month. I can talk to them about what that costs of your operation. When we talk about storage, we need to talk about safety. This probably should have been the first thing we talked about. I don't know if you've heard. I didn't know about it until this week, but there was a farmer in Taylor, Canada. It got caught in rain and died. It could have been avoided very easily. We had a situation near the office where a fellow was actually trapped above, about chest deep. And I'll show you some slides about that now it happened. Just when we're inspecting grain, I mean, all these tools are handy, but they don't really eliminate the need to get in and look at grain. Now, if I had grain stored on the farm, I'd go and look at it. And I look at it pretty often. And over time, the experience might be able to that's all. And trust, how I can manage money without doing that. But, some of the tools you need, tools of trade here, some sampling equipment, obviously a moisture meter, you can probe, and be all that deep, but you can probe below the surface and see what's going on. Also through the surface, and this lab out here, be familiar with it, but it's just handheld temperature and wet bulb device to help you determine the humidity. And we'll do that as well. So this is a rescue operation in a few years ago. I'm getting away now, 10 years ago. but he was, the fellow was not much older than I am now, okay? But he was in his 60s. And working in by himself, and he come in back to the house as soon as they got it, so they were looking for him. He was not alone with the man, you can see here, it's small man, by today's standards, it's about 500 bushel a day. More than 10,000 bushel. But he was caught, as I said, in a flowing drain, but the flow stopped to the point where he was just trapped in his chest. Okay, so he was not in imminent danger, but he was deep enough where he couldn't free himself. And they didn't have, today I think what we would use would be a Cooperative. Because there's Liberty too, there's other devices you've seen me demonstrated. And again, this is another thing that Shearer showed one of the companies there. I've seen him demonstrate not every hour, but fairly routinely through the show how these devices would work. But if you would build it, you can build plywood in that matter. But you can just or some sheet metal around a person that's trapped in the bin, and you just take a bucket or a cup and move that loose string around the person, and release the pressure enough away from the feet itself. That's the kind of method a lot of EMS folks would use to free someone and extract inside of you. Extract. You don't have it's way too many forces on a person that's in immersion to pull them out. It's just a harness. Like lower extremities are putting too much pressure on the brain. So you have to relieve that. That's what Cooperative comes in. But in this case, they had to relieve pressure by cutting holes in the bin. You have to do that uniformly around the bin so that you don't get an off-center loading and another structural problem occurring. It took, in this case, I didn't know at the time, you can see a hole there. There's another layer inside, actually 4 holes where it was said and done in that bin. Rain coming out in good condition. Kind of hard to understand why we had a problem. They ended up taking this skull out backdoor through the hole that's cut here and the slot thing they should slide out of the bin. So after the dust settled a little bit, I was able to circle in and take a picture through this hole here to see what the problem really was. And they had not put it in. They had a clump of grain and matted grain and it's oil in the center of that bin. This can happen with corn or soybeans or wheat, anything with the have moisture buildup. Grains have, they like moisture, they'll pull moisture. And when it does, and it goes in the check, we can have some problems, obviously. And in this case, we can get in here, go through this clump. And when the dog first saw what the problem was, he thought, all you can see was just this, somewhat like a tip of an iceberg. And wasn't sure at all how big it was, but the rope you see here, you can see that. It was just that was when they had brought in to kind of help stabilize him as they were moving things around. It was not an issue. But the other part of the story is that the grain all around, the grain came out on the ground, was all in good condition. Those points, no things, not speck of mold or any of it, or anything. It was just that one spot. And had been avoided by getting inside the bin and breaking that up. You knew it was there. But if you won't know it's there unless you have a rod or something to kind of probe below the surface to see if there's any resistance. So, the other reason we're talking about this time of year, obviously, is maybe when folks would routinely look and check the brain as temperatures start changing and warming up. So you got to be cautious. And the way to avoid that is have someone up there on top of the bed with you. And because if he had been made a deal with him, we shouldn't have been in there without harness, a climbing harness at least. Okay? You want to tie that off to the ladder so it's soft. But, the door or something else here. It just speaks to me, I think, to be cautious. We have a publication on some occasional hazards that have been widely distributed, widely used, and used by other states. Most any state has a publication on tips for expecting brain safety. So from that, I'm going to kind of go into, and this web address is not correct. We're going to have to go back to the change up. But some of the things I posted there trying to fill the gaps on some other websites. One is a very simple shrink calculator within the moisture of the brain, the load size, and the number of bushels, moisture coming in, and what the discount would be just in terms of moisture shrink. Okay. A lot of times, elevators will apply a hand shrink. That can be anywhere from a quarter to 3/4 of a point. Percentage point, but typically a 0.5% is, I think, fair because you are going to lose some just in hand. But that can give you so, pounds of bush you take in 20%, you can get paid for 926 bush. That's fair enough. You can use that as a check to see what the actual handling shrink is. But kind of give you a bottom line on what those discounts might be.
How do you figure, you got corn 15% store and take it out?
Yeah.
It's 14.5.
Yeah.
How do you figure how much weight you lost?
Well, I've got a table that calculate that. It's not posted there. I have to share that with you, send that to you. I think you might do that. Okay. But what I have is a table that generates the amount of weight at given point, adjusted to the standard push. So it gives you the amount of water at different moisture levels. And that's a good question because I think it gets back to moisture control. If you overdrive it, you lose the money. And yeah.
I can figure anything 15%, whether it's sugar dry or I don't know how.
Yeah, the other side, overdriving it's not, there's not a lot of information out there, but I do have a spreadsheet that gives you the amount of weight that it was. Because, the other part of this is, if you're storing grain and going to hold it through the summer, you want to drive it about 13% to hold it well, and go back to that chart, because it provides a moisture content inside or relative humidity inside the airspace, instead of 65%. That's why. The temperature we have inside. So it's about 80 degrees on average, and that's monthly average. It can be a little higher than that, but that's we use kind of the standard design benchmark, but at 80 degrees and 65% humidity, you want to have 13%. So organic leverage. So yeah, but you wouldn't want to do that unless you're going to, have one that's going to be worth the whole, take that hit. But on average, I think last month I had another presentation that kind of addresses that. For $4 corn, I think it's about a nickel per point below market. So it's the market value of that. About a nickel per point. But we've been talking about data storage structures. I've got some tool on the website that helps you calculate volume. We get a lot of questions on, well, especially like the last couple of years, we've had some big crops, looking at different storage, other than conventional storage, if you don't have time or the interest in building it again. So, put some grain in a storage shed and get you through the storage period, and market that first. But here we have a couple of examples here. We have a 40 by 60 foot building. If we don't have sufficient strength in the wall, we would be able to stack that pretty deep, but we would have about 5,500 bushels. Thank you. So, if we were running to put, 4 feet of reinforcement in that wall, it's going to cost us some money to do that, but it's pretty typical height. We can add that fairly economically so that you can climb it on the side. So, maybe actually reinforcement behind that, we can use that back around 1,000 bushels. That's the building. So, there's an advantage to putting some reinforcing in there. And then the next we have here, there's a 6,500, the same thing. So, obviously, the higher the wall, the more cost associated with reinforcement. But that tool is available. And also, kind of handy because it also gives you the height. But the height in the center of the bed, how tall it's going to stack up. And you want to keep out the line trusses and build. This is just an illustration of a cross section of a 40-foot building. We have 4-foot reinforcement wall, 4 feet. Center height, we got 12.5 feet. You want to keep it away from the trusses because again, as you're unloading grain, they can pull down, reinforcement on that area and weaken the roof, and you can cause some damage. Then the other thing we're talking about here is aeration ducts. We're showing those about 10 feet apart. This could be, we've got a program to use the size of ducts and space of ducts in different areas for that sort of building. Another spreadsheet I have, a little more involved, but it helps you determine what the hauling costs are to the penny, actually, if you're willing to put in the information to it. I actually modified this spreadsheet from one that I found from Iowa, and they're looking at average costs for different distances from the farm. You're looking at 5 to 100 miles, and we can experience that at the time. We're fortunate to have someone pretty close, but oftentimes there are videos offered. I know one farmer in Logan County that tries to capture that early harvest. Pretty good. But he has to go eat it. So, I've used dries to pretty wet corn to satisfy that contract. But he pushed the petrol through it and make it work. But this bottom line here, anywhere the range of pricing anywhere from nickel to 40 cents per bushel to haul grain. The distance and somewhat the cost of the truck drop. So, and again, I say there's more involved, but you want to put in here is the purchase price of the truck, or the tractor itself. We're going to look at the tractor, then we'll look at the trailer. So the cost to operate that can be generated from the items that you see here. We'll do all that just to show you. It's very, it covers everything, okay? All the way down to labor and interest, of course. License fees, don't put the truck, don't put the other weather in and how much, what your annual use would be, how many bushels total you're going to haul, that kind of thing. And then the trailer itself is a similar set of inputs, okay? But it's what it, after going through that, only one time for each truck, you've got a feel for what the actual costs are. This is kind of breaking it down again. For the tractor, for the trailer, the total cost per year, and per bushel, again, is that for $200,000 a year, and then per mile, depending on the business. So with that information, we can put into the spreadsheet. I put together to look at comparison. Because when I first started, got interested in doing this was we had a lot of diesel prices. see how much that impact all it costs. We put in the diesel price, the capacity of the truck, and from the previous spreadsheet, you know these numbers, and you can see across here and what that number for that, but the determinants are is the cost per mile and then per bushel per mile. Okay? So say the bottom line here, as far as driving that, getting all this, is we have two elevators down here in the bottom table. First one's about 5 miles away, second one's 20 miles away, and it's offering, let's say it's offering a nickel above the one that's closer to you. Is it worth hauling it to you? Well, looking across there, kind of break down the different items here. The final line over on the right side looks to be about a $9 difference in cost to you. Make that haul. So it's only a nickel difference in price out of the haul. It's more than that. And you got time. Some of the other variables to put in here are wait times at different elevators, parts of the seat and all that. So that impacts your labor costs. This is the bar, which sometimes will charge some time, the value for their time sometimes not. And probably should. So anyway, that's why I say I think you wanted to go through that a little bit of time to put some of that information in for what it costs to operate the truck and the trailer. You get that number pretty well. Pretty quickly. So then you got it set up and you can go through it so much year to year, more sequel calculation, but then what the price of each is. So the next thing I want to talk about is a spreadsheet that compares drying costs, artificial drying or heated air drying with field drying. And where I had motivation to put this together was actually just driving around at the harvest and seeing some volunteer corn in the field. You don't see this everywhere, certainly. And if depending on how good of operator you have, you may not see much volunteer corn out there at all. But it's not uncommon in Kentucky to see a flourish of volunteer corn after harvest before wheat is planted. Okay? I mean, I've seen situations actually worse than what we're seeing here. And I don't know what these harvest losses are, but I know I've seen some data that puts it near this range. There's some data out of that was collected across the corn belt that shows about the average loss for corn harvest about 5 to 6%. If you ask, I mean, what's one of the things is, down around, it was below 5%, sure, but maybe down around 1 or 2%. Manufacturers would say that's what it is. But even if you have that, even if it has some volunteer corn, it's going to be unsightly, but it's not probably economic. Bad. You can probably stay on that. If it gets much higher, it's going to be fine. So then, what it does is allows you to put in the price of corn, how much you might dry, what your yield level is, and then if you have 5%, say if you're an average operator on a farm, is an average loss is 5%, and 150 bushel per acre yield, more than like 200 this year. Some people, but if 150 bushel per acre, that's probably that's what kind of talk about. Well, at least that bushel per acre. And at $4, that's worth $30. Well, how much can we afford to drive rain at that $30 per acre? Turns out, if we think the dryer has been paid for, all we have to look at is the cost of energy. It only costs us about $22 to dry it. And so we've got to put our head $8, which is what staying with the table. Now, if we have to pay for the dryer, it's going to cost us about $7 more per acre, what it boils down to. So we don't have as much advantage if we've got to go out and buy a new dryer, give it this time. But in time, I think it's probably better to have a piece of mind that's grains in the van versus out in the field where it's going to be exposed to insects, maybe some mold. And there's years, of course, when we have hurricanes come through. And which is going down when we get out here. That's when our losses can really fall. Or you can have one that is getting out of here, it's going real slow. But we're now looking at comparison of some different scenarios here so you get some trends, and this is looking at $3.50 corn, where we are today, pretty close, and then $1.40 per gallon of LP gas to dry it. If we have low harvest losses at 2% on this bottom line, it's hard to justify artificial drying. But if we're average level of 5% is the middle blue line, we can afford to dry about 5 points and be lane ahead to do that. And I know, you can dry it higher, because again, it's what's worth to you at peace of mind. But if we have high losses, excess losses, then we had those years, Hurricane Ike came through, for example, right before harvest time, and put a lot of it on the ground. And some of the agents I was talking with estimated harvest losses in that range, 8 to 9 to 10%. So it certainly could pay, to get out there and harvest early, then you're going to get to do that. So that's another tool that's out there. And the last thing I'll talk about is a similar tool. This is not as involved, but looking at double crop, maybe not so much that done up here, but certainly looking at the bottom line of this is the price of soybeans drives this entire decision when to harvest wheat. So if you got some double crop wheat, double crop beans out there, you're harvesting wheat early, getting that dry, what's it going to cost you versus delaying the planting of the soybeans and taking that yield loss and delaying the planting. That's a scenario where I kind of compare here. Well, the red line here is showing what our soybean losses would be, and based on some historical data that if you remember, of course, Jim Herbeck, the magic number he used was June 7th across the second. Well, that's okay, I think, but what we really want to talk about is the base that date on harvest or on degree days, as opposed to this fixed date. Degree days is probably a better indicator, I think, of when you have that break in yield loss of soybeans. But historically, they've seen anywhere from a bushel a day or 7 bushels a week lost from harvest when they planted soybeans. So I use that number in this scenario. Compare that then with drying costs for wheat, which is fairly minimal. That's sort of the green line. As it dries in the field, obviously you would have that cost diminishes, but you might have some increased harvest losses for wheat as it shatters and dries as you're harvesting that. So I did allow for that. But then the blue line is a total of all these costs as we're going from before and after the optimal date. Okay. And as I said, historically, you've heard of some publications in the past, we showed June 7th that target, the magic date for planting wheat, planting soybean. But even if it's half that, even if our yield loss is half what we're showing here, $13 beans, the cost really get quite high. So the motivation to plant those, to dry the wheat and get the beans planted time. So with that, I'll start winding down here, but some of the other websites I've used for finding information on grain drying and storage here, generated quite a bit of stuff I was sharing earlier on the website we have here. And I guess I'll take any questions you might have. After that last night's game, it was like, started out being a little nerve-wracking on that. They always seem to do that to me. I've been a fan since I was in 8th grade, so. I don't show that slide when I'm closer to Indiana. Got some pushback on that. But we might have, I got that slide too. We might have like better issue. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Any questions on, what we talked about, what we didn't talk about, grain drying, storage. I didn't get into something else I've been working on lately is dryer audits. That's kind of why I spent some time those last pieces there, what it really costs, and how quickly can you pay for a new dryer? What kind of a bushel can have, what costs the dryer is obviously, and what the bushels can have, and what the energy prices are. But if you dry and clean, they can not pay for the dryer, they won't pass it on the bushels to it. But there's, and when I started looking at that, there's some incentive there to get our heating plan early. So, I mean, I don't think we have so much double cropping in this way as we do down around Princeton and over in Logan, maybe purchase area. You are. You probably want to be aware of that. And you probably already know that, just a matter of maybe knowing what the drawing cost side is. But I get questions in this area on storage and drying, and I know the anabolic station does too. I'm down the hall enough, well, close enough to it, but his voice scared a lot better than mine anyway. Some coffee gets March and earlier, maybe even some people are, I know we're great, and that's why we buy some surprises. And how they solve those problems, and a lot of times it can be prevented with good that's what we're talking about that. So I hope I hit some of the things that we had in mind, maybe a little more time. I didn't get into some of the other storage choices. We talked about flat storage, conventional bins, that kind of thing. Last fall we had a lot of interest in grain bags, and I think those are fine for surplus crops. When we have extra grain we didn't have in the store. But what I caution folks on is you want to put it, if you're using a bag, you put it in dry, and you won't be able to get to cool it. There's no way you can get air, you put air pipe in there, get air moving through it, so you can. At the same time, it's got an exposure, so it's going to pretty much cool down the outside temperature. So the temperature control is not so much of a problem, but you have to have it in there and cool before you put it in. Otherwise, when it attracts some heat in there, that can cause some problems. And dry and cool surface is protected from drainage as much as you can. Put it on the top of the hill. If it's in a cornfield, you want to probably run the stubble right over that, flatten it, so you don't puncture the bag, and those kind of things. Simple thing. At the same time, it's very difficult to protect it from wildlife. Deer, birds, it's going to be totally exposed. So I really consider that to be the last choice looking at the storm. I think an outside ring is a better choice because you can run some air through it and you can protect it with a salt cover. I've seen some of those around. Some years ago, one of the dinners. It was the first one I saw in this area. It was in purchase other places. You see those promoted quite a bit, and it's better than outside storage than undercover. It is better than that. That is a very nice system towards something exactly special. But,
what recommendations do you have for site selection, other than being flat?
Good drainage, and not just flat, but you want to minimize any water coming in from the surrounding area. But you want to prepare the surface, maybe with a little gravel, keep it free from the ground contact and moisture migration from the ground. That, and the other thing is you want to try to run if it's in a bag, you want to run it north-south, so you get pretty much even temperature according to the sun. Then you will get the swing east-west, but the north side is going to stay cold, and the south side is going to go up, and then you get those conventional those kind of things. And I say the bags are all right for short-term storage if you put it in a dry and cool. I saw results of a study down in Mississippi where they put it on at 70%. It didn't come down to it.
Do you guys have any questions?
I know there's a lot of experience out there with storage. Yeah.
I was talking to John here just the other day about the grant money, where you can show energy efficiency.
Yes.
And some of those automated fan things.
Yes.
I mean, right now we got a lot of small fans on, smaller fans. It's just guesswork. These are on, sometimes a month on end.
Yeah.
Is there, would there be any money available to maybe upgrade to more of an automated system if you can show?
Yes, there is, if you have some overdrive rain, records that you can show, if we bring it in overdrive. I've, you can work with the state energy, so GOEP, Governor's Office for Ag Policy. They have grant money available for energy efficiency projects. And in my mind, they're all gone with this too, is that if you minimize overdrive, there's an energy savings. But the biggest thing that I can show, if you have the records, is what the economic, how good the payback is from a motion control, for example, is what we're talking about. Is a fan controller to judiciously decide when you're going to minimize overdrive. And so if you've got some records to show how many bushels you've overdrive in the past, we can take that information, work with some farmers to make sure.
There are a few cases where we'll put corn in a bin, a large bin, and ground at 70%. And I hauled it out of there, under 15 this year.
Yeah,
we put a lock to that, but if you had the.
Well, yeah, if you had a controller, to decide when going fans, and I've only done about 3 artists like that, but every one of them, they were short payback. Because, well, I mean, they had several thousand, tens of thousands of bushels of people. But, so it's really the payback directly on how many bushels you have. It's just the bottom. You still, you have advantage.
20,000 are this month. How people with that. Almost embarrassing.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, is, and that was with electrical energy. We're talking about not heat, but well, it's going to be a little, but still, we're going to have an energy savings, and we can document that. In the case,
it's a little easier to get there once you're running around the ground.
Yeah.
Sometimes that system is automatically built up when you want to, the road system doesn't have to go on.
No, I had another presentation talking about some of the energy audit, some of the projects that work on.
Could you work with us with a project like that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm carrying the contact information. I'm pretty good to find. But just if you want to do that, what you need to do is pull together your utility bills for the period that you ran the fans, so we can establish what the historical energy costs were to, and then how many bushels you have. Just take this. You can compile that, put that in a spreadsheet, and we'll calculate how many bushels and what the weight loss was from that, and then on that, like equivalent bushels, and then what today's current price, what the value of that. So it's pretty straightforward.
Well, Dave, come on. Those bills over there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would say
You can see, I've seen some.
we got some like that same thing.
And the other question about
Put air on it. What?
17.
Just for air. Okay. It's anyone guessing.
You got it like him, you got it under 15. I was shocked. I was hoping it would be 15.
Well, I think, yeah, if you overventilate, you can overdrive. You know, it's just a matter of, to get back to that chart we're talking about, is, you know, cut the fan off when it gets dry, and then it's dry.
They have a system that can monitor moisture. Yeah, it's system that.
Well,
Because
yeah, you don't necessarily need that, but.
Their guess is that it's 97, maybe 6 okay, it's good.
Yeah. All right.
Because essentially, it's a big guess.
Yeah, I know. And we have, the tools are out there to reduce all that.
Okay.
You know, to manage that much time.
well, a lot of things can affect that too, because when we put that drain in there, it was warm, hot,
Yeah.
you know. So that was a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because then the weather cooled off and put that cold air in there, we kept it going nonstop, like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where you say you're living for it, and it's not going to do anything. Doesn't just control temperature.
Somebody told me to keep the fans going and don't turn them off. Which is,
It depends on where. If you approach water moisture, you want to be well with condition right there.
yeah, no, we did it.
What about when it's raining or foggy, things like that, is ceiling fans running?
Well, again, it depends on how close you are to the water moisture. If it's 70%, what you're going to do to keep running the fan when it's raining is you're going to control the temperature. It's not going to. You're going to have a little bit of moisture to that bottom layer, but not a lot.
What if
Because it was not more moisture as quickly as it gets up.
What if you're feeling hot right now, dry, and it starts raining, or there's these leave fan running?
But you want to control temperature.
If it starts raining, I gotta run out there and sit there and have some parenting dollars, and it's not me. You just full training before the then.
If you want to control moisture as quickly as it will dry.
Really?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
We've got some neighbors that keep it running. Even
That's
there,
hard to do.
even there.
But when you got a lot of drain put in that bin, you can't turn there.
No, you got to keep running up. Yeah, if you got hot money, you cool, you have to run that. You're going to have more problem if it's in your space down there.
We got another, well, export environment, we got some, not sure real small things that, and we had the condensation problem. And I found some, one bin this year, and I guess it flooded on the roof or something, right there, before the bed performed it, found it. That's, we just, I guess we can't push enough air to keep condensation. I don't know if it's ground this year.
What you can do is add a roof in.
Yeah.
I mean, how you can add a roof in.
That's what I noticed on all those slides you were showing on. Man, them fans were like roof fans,
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
We got a bunch on them.
How do you get that, those like a house line, we need roof vents up there, we don't have that space. Control, condensate, especially on the bigger vents.
What's the area, everybody? Even across the bin? All those vents?
The vents, what they have to do is, remove the water that accumulates up the top. And then when you have those sunny days, where they won't send it up and then cool off at night, and then you get some condensation, and then it goes back down. All right. I mean, that's what happened this winter. So, as the temperature changes through the day, you have enough moisture in that bin where you're going to get a little bit of humidity up in that space.
I was trying to figure out what's going on like this year. We got, from our rain garden, we had 2 bigger bins, big fans, always pull out there for transfer to small bins. I didn't know, maybe that warm air was, like, travel to the downspouts, and maybe getting forced into the smaller ones that don't have the fan. And then the condensation happens.
I'll tell you what, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried to get every fan going on that leg.
Yeah.
Took up that leg,
Another thing you can do, if you have an opening in your distributor, put a fan up there, which takes a lot less air. You know, just move air to the downspouts, control that problem. So if you have to ventilate, it goes fast. Like most people, they work with that.
They ventilated it.
Yeah, they ventilate the system, the pipe, essentially. And you can do it from the top, you can do it from the bottom. But if you're talking about, you can run all the things. So force air through the pipes. Or you can put a fan up in that distributor or force air from the top end.
It's good, you can get a gradual cool down.
Yes. Yeah, that's this one.
Because if you don't, do that.
Yeah, it was
That's
right
when
here
you
that
get
changed.
condensation from your air filter, that's where you get that too. You got color outside the morning, and then comes up to it. They usually drain a little bit, but it'll really.
We
I
have
think
this
I
one.
might get a bucket for,
You think about how much surface they can have over there with pipes, condensation in there, it would be moisture problem. And build up.
Have you seen a good system for those big ones? Well,
What else? I've seen some folks, with a pneumatic system. They can clean the pool beds coming out of the dryer within a drop. Instead of tightening the sheet or coming out of the dryer into the way or something.
but it's not really.
If it fills up an old rapid wagon, I mean, you can get that much out. Yeah. And I've seen others that just blow it out, if you're out the country and not really making it,
What percentage do you think that is removed?
I love it. I don't. It's worth whatever you can get out of it. I think it's worth whatever you can get. Try something.
That's still not weighing.
No, that's why you can move it. That's what causes the problem. It does cause a lot of problems.
This last 2 years, it's been really bad. Of course, we've had more moisture, you got, it's like more of those, you got,
Yeah. And that, it's going to trap, I'm sure, because these ones, they have you get across that. Yeah, it's good to clean it. Before, if you're going into a long-term storage especially, it's good to clean. Don't reduce those lines. And try to keep those in there. But if you have other questions, through the season, just phone call away or email away.
If you're adding to an existing storage, do you all have someone that's effectively planned to, everything we do, we automate something else, we can't anticipate what's going to be in 20 years.
Yeah.
And do you all have someone that would, take your plan or look at your farm and see how to place those bins?
Yeah. I've done some of that work. Sure.
We're right now, I think, staff.
Okay.
And we don't know, where to go, to not mess up. I'm not worried about it, my son, they worry about 20 years, we should put that in there, we should put it in. And I mean, we're already seeing that, but
I am.
after you get past two, you get a,
Well, yeah, I have to sit down with both with the person to look, because the rule of thumb is if you can double your capacity when you're ready on the side, and then double it again without causing any headaches, around the city, around the area, then that's what you're going to shoot.
well, I saw a farm did one night. Well, I
Yes,
mean,
I trust
for
that.
every plant, and it's the same thing happened now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it will to a degree, but I mean,
then you have to get a new site again and go like that.
but now I've seen some systems that are, 100,000 bushel bins sitting next to a 3,000 bushel.
Yeah.
It's just in the driveways, it's harder to get out of the way than it is, it really ought to be open, but you can work with it. So, but in all kind of in between. Yeah, it's been interesting to see how the systems have grown in such. Just a windshield brought about studies on that. And some of the systems that have been laid out well initially, can expand using. I've seen that. That's the kind of thing to shoot for. Good for the beginning. And the other thing is three-phase, which is not everybody's running additional for times, but down the road. And not everybody has that luxury. But if you have it, that naturally is. goes to the infrastructure, it can influence the site, for sure. We won't put it. Have you had anything, down the road on the drive, switching that driver, but we gotta have some energy out programs, energy efficiency.
We're actually messed up right now.
What do you have now?
Super. Yeah,
How old is
double fan is, can you go?
it? Okay.
Double fan, and but the electronics are all, it's the first they had at middle school, and there's normal problems, and he upgraded 2 years ago with the touchscreen.
Okay.
So we're, basically trade driver, trade electronics.
Well, I was gonna say, you can get a grant to just trade the guts of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we can get,
We can do it like electronics.
you can get a grant for this, that, component.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get a grant for that.
You do all those methods.
Sure. No, I mean, I work with all kinds of projects that are based on it.
Well, you're improving.
Well, some cases there are, yeah. Some cases, it's just, it's kind of a stretch. But what you're talking about is pretty easy to justify. And the state program is not real. They have a scoring system, but they're pretty generous. And you can get up to $10,000. Up to 50% of the project, well, see, 50% of the project up to $10,000. So if you had a grant forward with them, okay, you should be fine.
I'm on the driver, I'm about 25,000, you have to be, it's a double thing, this is higher. That's pretty good, it's about 25,000 on the driver. I don't know about the, Denmark and stuff.
Yeah, so you're there, maxing out. Yeah, so
That counts for county cost share too. So,
yeah, you know, move back to the county culture.
We'll get any culture.
congratulations.
That's all I
Last night, this morning,
Good.
you are, yes.
That's the other reason for having this. Yeah. You're now fully
What's
versatile.
the county cost here?
Do what?
What's the county cost here program?
I think up to 5,000. And, sorry, I'm trying to multitask here with this recording.